The Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself. And if you feel that you have become estranged from your family or friends or love or anything, that's not the truth of it. The Buddha was an ascetic, a man who practiced meditation, contemplation, prayer to God for many, many years. Point being that be a lamp unto yourself is very deeply involved subject matter. There's nothing selfish about it. It's the only healing balm we'll ever have for the world, for friends, for your children, your parents, your family, which, be closer to. You become closer and closer to death. You're older, you'll find all your friends, grandmom or dad or uncle or aunt. You'll find pictures of Jesus and their children all over the house. That's where your heart is. That's where your soul is. And the more you grow away from needing or lusting for people, for work, for acknowledgement, and the more quiet you become, the closer you become to being that lamp, that one pillar in the society that would lift all boats. It's a great sense of equanimity. It's a genius to understand those few words that give solace to all and everything. To encapsulate the entirety of today's empowerment that we will experience together. The other end of it is what's been called Maya, in Sanskrit, the illusion, that the world is an illusion. So there's great depth of knowledge. You have to understand everything in the world to not react to it, to know that it's illusory. And still you hold like you have a child. You don't want to overwhelm the child, like they call it a helicopter parents or something. You're all over. You want to, like my buddy Greg here trains little kids and adults as a martial arts teacher his entire life. And he's on top of them in the most delicate way, and only that moment, that exquisite moment where they need to be, and you see it would be accepted, discipline, you give them that, don't do that way, do it this way, be nicer to Henry or whatever. And it's very delicate, and a great mom does that. And do this with ourselves in meditation. We understand that we've incarnated here. This thing called birth is a spiritual expression of the universe that involves your heroic activities as a divine presence. All spiritual people do not become spiritual. All spiritual people have always been spiritual and will always be spiritual. When you pass through, when you traverse this plane of experience called the world, which is an illusion, and that goes back to the idea it's very, very, very involved and intricate in the star systems, and the smaller the more powerful the microscope or the telescope you get, then the more you're going to see, but it's all the illusion. You sit quietly like the Buddha. It all disappears. And it takes some years to discern that it's not a social or political figure, has no power over you, has no involvement with you, never was. Be a lamp unto yourself. If you can get there, then you can heal the nations, the world, your mom, your kids, your loved ones, the heavens, the star systems. And they'll disappear, and they'll dissipate, they'll disappear, the more quiet you become. The more of yourself you pour into that lamp, the more beautifully you'll burn, you'll shine, you'll glow, you'll care, you'll love, you'll give, you'll teach, you'll instruct, you'll take care of, you'll protect all those you love by disengaging from the world. That's what meditation, in a Buddhistic sense, in any spiritual sense, involves. It's not to become better in school, in your life, or to look better, or lose weight. You can do all these things. They'll happen naturally when you are not involved, when you don't want or need. And as horrific as that might sound to a 21-year-old kid who's just starting out in the world, it's quite beautiful. I know I was that way. And most of my spiritual friends, when I've gone to different cultures, not that that's necessarily not here, but it's been easier to disappear into the woodwork. So we have to pull out the plug from everything in the world to become quiet, to light our lamp. And when we disappear from this plane of beingness, then God himself will exist here, and the world won't be anymore. I hope that's understood. The more intelligent you are, the more spiritual you truly are, the more you'll grasp this. All these words of the Buddhas, of the great ascetics from the deserts of wherever, Arabia, Palestine, talked about that 2,700 years ago, the Hebrew prophets. The idea of one God, that was a meditative experience. They weren't in the synagogue or the church going over the dogma, figuring out what the theology of this would be. It's so brave, so heroic, so tough. They get quiet and don't even believe their own senses, their own mind. The walls don't exist. I'm not to do the stars or my past or future or present. Becomes very, very, very glorious. In a quiet sort of way, you disappear into the beauty that's always here. It's heaven. Can't you feel it? You're its light. There is no shadow in the light. Jesus said, if the light of the eye be single, then the whole body is filled with light. Meaning that if you understand that God is everything, then God is everything. He said, but if the light of the eye be dark, then the whole body is filled with darkness. What that was meant spiritually was that if you believe anything of this world exists, that's the idea of darkness, the devil, evil, it's in not being a lamp unto yourself. These are spiritual experiences, not words or goals or destinies. They're just are. If you truly care for those you love, this is how you fix their life. There's so many people I love more than breathing. And the only way I can help them is sitting alone quietly at night and disappearing into the light. And that's why I do it. That's why I don't want or need anything or anyone, anywhere at any time. I'm saying this for you. I'm saying this as a spiritual person. There are hundreds of millions of us. And no one knows we're here because they do not ask, they do not care, they're busy. And that's okay. We're here for those we love. We don't want to be busy. Who want to see you, Father God, and know you, and be as you are in this world. Be a lamp unto ourselves. And we'll find the light within is God's own, for we're God's own. If we're here to make it clear we've incarnated out of spiritual reasons, if we're spiritual, the heavens are luminous, infinite, unending. These are not just words. It's so much more than anyone could dream. So much more beautiful. It can be very quiet, But that's the doorway. It's like walking out of the woods onto the shoreline and sit quietly in a beautiful sunlit morning and sit in your meditation pose on the beach and you look out in the ocean, as I did many years after, well, looking at my friends in Tibet. I'd be out here on the California coast and sit there and just see my friends in Tibet cross the water and in their homeland, even though that wasn't there and the ocean wasn't there and I wasn't there and I was never near thou, and I'm not saying this as I'm speaking. Do you understand the delicate nature of perception when you're spiritual? So you arrived in this plane through that portal called birth on a trajectory to find out what there was something in the universe out of whack, and you gave up your infinite presence as being a part of God. And it's a love relationship with God, the same as you have with your mom and dad and your children. That's what it is. Except this is perfect and infinite. And these are mere replicas, what we have in this world. But we recognize this when we start to become quiet. We'll realize the only thing that's going to heal our friend or son or daughter or mom or dad or pop is going to be becoming very quiet. Because they're going to pass. My mom and dad have been gone some time now, and they're always with me, and I'm always with them. They were spiritual when I was here. My dad would talk to me when I was in different countries. He said, "I always feel your presence." When he said that, because he was a tough street cop, I was like, really? You know what I mean? So it was it's very beautiful to be spiritual. It's very cleansing and healing. And it's very trying in our relationships with people who are so rude and inappropriate. They can understand the secrets of the universe. That's why Jesus said, ask, knock, and the door shall be opened. Ask and you shall receive. And he meant that there are spiritual principles. If you have someone spiritual in your life, it doesn't mean go ask it, it means ask God directly. God's always here. He's always our teacher. God's never not been here. And again, we go to the idea of original innocence, not original guilt. We came here and everyone is scarred. And everyone is made to think they've done something wrong or indecent or outright lied or cheated or stole. And the most innocent people in the world are treated like garbage throughout their life in the world. And this is being said to you, the innocent one. You're always innocent. I'll explain my mom, my dad, whatever the things you go through, they're here. We had the same love that we have now then, but once they escaped bodily consciousness and they were not mortals, they were not materialistic people, they were always spiritual. My mom lived for her 6 kids and nothing else existed. And met Carlos's mom last night, and it's the same way. It's just, there are very spiritual people in the world. And it's very wonderful to know them. And we're all confounded with the same, at times, sense of guilt. I have worked hard on it all my life because I need to fix everybody. I hope that makes sense. I can remember a young lady, Paul, I met 30, 40, 50 years ago, I don't know, 40 years ago. So wonderful, and we liked each other, and I knew I couldn't spend a moment, and I just died to not be able to help her in her life. She was treated poorly by an employer or something, and I remembered how I have to live this destiny all my life. So it's very trying, because you want to help so much. There are people so wonderful, family members like that right now, but I'm happy about it and satisfied, and they feel my presence all the time, and I feel theirs, and I have family, most of my friends are, get around on wheelchairs, and we'll have crazy calls late at night when they can't even move or get help or do little things. Or my best friend, I won't say his name, has had heart problems, but we talk and we're quiet together and not react, and so lived through all the different ranges of material life. He's had his marriages and children and everything went wrong. And now he's dying as a great heroic figure, and we're completely happy and quiet. And so having him meet me on the same ground spiritually has been my dream, and he's there now. So when you can get here, when you're a lamp unto yourself, when you've quieted your perception, you can't want or need when there's so much to give, so much to do. If 1 out of 10 people gave in the way a spiritual person gives, the world would be 1,000 times happier. But it would still be the world, if that makes sense. There are no bodies, there is no separation between people. We are our presence, which is the whole idea of this. And once you become a lamp unto yourself, you're not here literally, you're in heaven. You see such beauty. It's not clandestine, it's not hidden, but you can't tell anyone because everyone is running around, going here, going there. Not that you don't live the routine of life, the everyday melange, like the Buddhist, the Zen master called it. He said, what do you do? He said, the enlightened one he was, and he said, well, I chop wood and carry water. In other words, you have to live your daily routine. You go with the rhythm of the earth. But that doesn't take away from this. Yes, I have to eat, I have to do something, but have I ever not felt this for a moment? I'm saying this for all spiritual people. I am one of hundreds of millions. No one's going to hear us. I'm speaking for all of us. So to help all of us in our practice, practicing the presence, becoming more quiet, less reactive, more kind, more caring, more giving, more intelligent, more decent, more upright. And we can cleanse the lives and hearts and souls and minds and emotions of all those we love by simply generating this light. It's the only thing that heals, that helps, that redirects everyone's fine sensibilities and finer sensibilities to the light that was, that is, that you are now. There's nothing wrong with you. And that's the secret of spirituality. As long as there are two people in the world who think they are a body, there will be war. Does that make sense? But once you've transcended bodily consciousness, it's not just peace, you'll feel the peace of God. There is a God, and that's why this practice of quieting oneself works. God is an infinite preciousness. God is a person, a very nice person, a very good man, a very gentle heart, contrite, caring, kind. And God sits on his throne in adoration of us, and I've seen the throne. And it's beyond infinite. I'm saying this for there are many, I meet people from time to time. I remember a nun one time in India, a Buddhist nun, and we talked about these things and the visions. In other words, they're human beings. The enlightened people I've met are very, very human. Had great friendships with some. And they have the same day-to-day travail that we do. But they're not here. And yet they're here for you, for me, for God, first of all. So when you see this infinity, I say, like the throne of grace, the throne of God beyond heaven, it's unimaginable. And this is an aspect of it. It's infinite intelligence and awareness. When the Buddha said, be a lamp unto yourself, this is after a lifetime of asceticism. In other words, not needing, not wanting, very cautious about what you eat or sleep or do anything. Buddhism isn't a religion, it's a spiritual practice. As soon as you sit to meditate and you understand what you're doing, that moment you are the Buddha. You are the awakened one. As long as you know you're on that path. Because you know you have a certainty of God's presence with you, with us. I was with my friend Baba Bedi in India. He was a holy man, enlightened, and his wife was Frida Bedi. She was the translator for the Karmapa, the most intelligent man in the world, spiritually in every way. And as soon as I say it, I forget everything and I become him. Does this make sense? Or if I think about my mom, I become her. Or my teacher, Kathleen, I become her. But it's not like this person you think in the world. I talked about my friend Paul, they wanted help, and she's here now, and I feel incredibly grateful to God for that, to know that she's well. And there are thousands of people like this. For me, I've seen a lot of death from violence and other sorts, but for me, the person has always been, if they're spiritual, they're freed of things. You can have circumstances at the time where you have to care for those around you, but once you leave go of this consciousness and you're awake, it's quite stupendous. It's quite freeing. But even there, you have to become uninvolved with the world. And my Tibetan friends called being a person, being alive in the world, having a body, they call it a precious human body, even though it's an illusion. They say it's precious because there's a time sense in the world. So if you meditate and you have the routine of life to handle, then you have, it's a marker where you can deal with things. And when you leave your body spiritually and you're not enlightened yet, it's more difficult. 400 years can be 4 hours can seem like 400 years, or the reverse. You get very confused. So they call it. So this is like like sitting on the lotus is the world. That's why you see all this beautiful art in Tibet. It's like, oh my God, God handed me a meditation cushion. Here, there's a way to figure it out. So it isn't just being born here. There are other worlds, world systems, but they're all the illusion. And they're less than infinitesimal, less than infinitely minute. Once you're awake, once you're not relating to it. But if you're here at this time in your life, you're here for a destiny to, we're all here as spiritual beings. Forget everything you ever read or thought or studied or your college professor said it's wrong. We're all here for the same reason. Love, compassion, decency. We're here to help everyone we love to light their own lamp, to be free from the bondage of this world that says anyone has power over you, can make a decision for you or those you love. Because once you step out from the sense of time and place and things to the place of not things and openness, caring, and spiritual love, when you stop wanting or needing, you'll see Him, the only God. You'll be Him, the only God. God gives God away in eternity. So as you traverse these different fields of divine expression, you'll become luminous in ways that are unimaginable and beautiful. And then sometimes there's a sense of quietude, and you might spend 1,000 years or 1,000,000 hours there, but it'll seem like that, but there is no time. These experiences are so ecstatic and glorious and wonderful and intelligent. And it's so gratifying to know Him. And this step just far enough away from the world in your spiritual practice so that your heart is linked with His, and then you can handle the drudgery of getting to full illumination because you're kind of locked in at a point. It's like once Suzette got her brown belt, and she's a master teacher of martial arts, and Greg here got his many black belts. And once you get to a certain level, you know you're not perfect, but you know, and you get there as anyone in martial arts, and Carlos knows, by teaching. You don't know what you know until you teach. So I'm saying in this, give this understanding, this perception to someone you love and practice giving it. And then you'll understand what you've been imprinted with from this world, and you will release yourself. You'll be a lamp unto yourself. Give until you bleed, until you die, and then begin giving. You are the light. You're born to greatness, and you know that in your heart. You feel this all through you. Forget everything else. This is the deer park in India, where the Buddha taught. I went there 72 or something, and I walked through there, and they're still there. It's just beautiful fields, and just a little bit of the wall left, and it's still there. Or under the bow tree, I was there with a bunch of people from whatever, doctors and teachers and some people you'd be aware of, and it was all just, where the bow tree is where the Buddha was enlightened, and you just sit there. And that moment's still there where he's enlightened, because that's forever. Your child's birth, it's forever. But these things fold into one another, and they expand and glow and become more gracious and kind and decent and human and ethereal and spiritual and exquisite and sensitive. And then other universes appear, and then my friend Paula will be here, or this or that, or my teacher Kathleen, the Holy One that I met. It's like everything will start to make sense once you take responsibility for yourself. Forget all the world that's thrust in upon us from so many areas. The more you walk away from it, the less it will be. The more you are. The entire point of this message is you are God's messenger. And just sit here quietly until you are in heaven, and heaven is here. My teacher Kathleen, my mom, my dad, Carlos's mom and family, and it's so nice to know him, the only God, and you, his shining light. There is nothing else. It's not that complicated. Get them out of your head. Don't give anyone parking space in your head again. Please, I beg you. I beg you. Just shine. Just care, just love, just give. And it will work because God is with us. You're God's living light. Be a lamp unto yourself. Walk away from it all. Doesn't matter if you have 10 children, or 5 businesses, or nothing. Doesn't matter what's around you. It's getting back to the rhythm of life, to the rhythm of the earth. Just, you can walk through it. I afford myself a lot of quiet because I know its value. I don't want or need anyone. I'm saying this for hundreds of millions of spiritual people because we cannot, I never get a chance to speak about this unless I force the issue. Now and then I'll run into someone that's quite spiritual so we can communicate on that level. And other than that, and that's just moments here and there or minutes, and because everyone's, we got to do this and what is that? What about such and such and such and such? And boy, isn't this a nice dinner? I'll go to my buddy dinner out at this restaurant. And it's just, so wonderful to have friends like at my friend's restaurant that are all very, very religious, spiritual, and family-oriented, old-fashioned. And so when you're around grounded people like that have values, it's so much more relaxing. And when you know God is with you, the actual God of the universe, then this practice becomes simple. We don't have to spend 20 years studying this or that. There are so many spiritual enhancement or self-enhancement techniques available to everyone. So many. And try a few, but I'm saying that I brought that up in the essence of so many hundreds and hundreds of people I've known in my life, literally thousands, that they're doing this practice or that practice. Oh, I'm just spiritual, I'm doing such and such. And I'm like, for people who are truly spiritual, just there's a great quiet that happens with me when I run into them, but there's not anything we have to say to each other. I talked about the time in India, Talopa's cave, and with the orphanage, my friend Frida's orphanage, and I remember it for one hairline of a moment, because you're so considerate, you're so kind, you're not going to, if I run into someone famous, I ran into a famous actor one time, we had a great conversation for a moment, a pretty girl came over and I had to give up right that moment. He was spiritual and I was spiritual, and it was quite sweet. And so I'm looking at these 5 lamas that are high lamas in Tibet, and a couple monks, and Frida Bedi in her kind of office there. She was the abbotess and running the orphanage, and then outside, and in one of the rooms were these like kind of cloth kind of coverings where the lamas would meditate and the monks. And so after the meditation, I'm looking at 5, and I'm from Philadelphia. I was a Marine, I'm from South Philly, all this craziness, and here I'm up here in the mountains looking at 5, because her husband was my teacher at the time, and he was my best friend. We were buddies. I never had that. It's just, when you're around someone that's spiritual, there's no teacher, it's just sweet, it just is, it's simple. And that's why I brought up my friend Nobukito. I say his name wrong because I don't want to give up someone's privacy here on these talks, but when you meet someone like that, it's all quiet, and the whole world disappears. You're literally in heaven, but you're dealing with the stuff that's around you. When I'm home alone, or when I have people see me all my life, I sit in my living room and people come in and God can speak to them. It just happens. You don't have to go to school for it. And it's different for every person. And so I'm saying, begin teaching, giving this, looking for some spiritual people, and write down your own thoughts. Own this, be this, you are this. Know that God is with you from day one and never leave you alone. And that you are a spiritually incarnate being, and that's your whole destiny. There's nothing wrong with you. So people will always, the dark side, the devil that owns this world, will try to set you up all the time. You love 2 people at one time, and there's a mix of jealousies and this and that. You got to step back and go, just quiet everything. Be a lamp unto yourself. And with that I'm saying, don't accept all the very complex judgments on you. Original innocence. We're here to light the lamp for all, forever, for God, for you, for me, my mom, your dad, his dad, and her mom. This is the hour. You are the lamp. You don't need the light of the sun or of a candle. For God himself shall be your light. The entirety of this thought we're experiencing together is that there is a God. And being a lamp unto ourselves is not reacting to these subtle impressions, all the energies directed at us and around us. We forget. I simply And I know the people in this room have this open sense, this openness, and everyone here has a presence. You know, you run into someone who has a really great presence. Friend Suzette or Carlos just said, there's a beautiful presence. And it's wonderful. You're wonderful. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not your problems or the solution to your problems. You're made of Godness. And it's not a religious sense, it's just an openness. When they say God is love, it's like we talked about, there's like 16 words for love in Latin or whatever. And it's agape or whatever, it's just an isness of the universe. It's who you are, it's this presence, we are a presence. This one simple lifetime is, the world itself doesn't exist. The material universe, the star systems don't exist. Once you step through this, it's burst through. It's, oh, the stars, we'll get in a spaceship and we'll see. No, it's you look right through it. You know, they have the multiverse and all this. None of it is. It's all fascinating. If it's fascinating, it's Satan. It's the projection. If it's quiet, then it's the meditation cushion. It's your precious life. And we gauge everything from that, knowing that the world doesn't exist. We're sitting on time, but we're doing it to protect others from it. And we're going to look at time in the face until it's no longer there. There are thousands of spiritual or self-enhancement techniques that all work. Apply some of it. But if you're here, be here. Everything I'm saying I knew then when I was 20 years old or whatever. My buddy John Buxbaseman, Dr. Buxbaseman from Los Angeles, he's a famous Zen master, and I guess he and his wife are psychotherapists for couples. And so I knew John 50 years ago, and that was the moment of my illumination where I knew he was a Buddhist priest, and he was the editor of the Poetry Journal at Temple University. And I said, hey John, we were buddies. I was a little older than most of the kids. I just got out of the service. I was going to school there. And so we went to his apartment, and we were buddies. And we both communicated in a deeply spiritual way, but you know, I didn't have the verbiage for it or anything. I was just back from another place. So I saw a poem on the wall. I've mentioned this before. It's so beautiful. It's from a Zen master, and it said, monks. It said, thousands of monks on hilltops everywhere. The wind blows through our mind. In other words, there's one mind, all the monks meditating. It's not like, oh, the monks on the hill. It's like, there is a God, and everyone's infused with this spiritual beauty and love that I have from my friend Paula, my mom, my dad, my friend Suzette, my teacher Greg here. There's this openness, and it's transcendent of being a body in the world. It's like when you love, you love, you love. Talking about my friend Nobuquito, and it's just, it's something endlessly it's so far beyond love. It's transubstantial, in other words, beyond the body. When you say that it's beyond the causal body, this, that, they say there's other bodies, you have an aura and so forth. And I remember when I had this place in Philly called Center House, me and my buddy put together, and there was one in England, and then we did a conference in India, New Delhi, the World Conference on Scientific Yoga. Was it the Christ's Pilgrimage to India or something? And we put it all together. I didn't know I did it, but I fell off a roof and then was taken somewhere, and I saw a thing that my place in Philadelphia with John's place in England put this together. So I called my dad, borrowed a couple bucks, got a ticket from Pan Am, and went to India and ran a conference. Didn't know it had nothing to do with it, but I wound up there. Point is, all these indices of things, they're not really existent. Nothing had happened. When you get quiet, it will all make sense. Everything that ever happened in your life to this moment will make sense to you. The idea that I grieved so much for that young lady, Paul, who was saintly and wonderful, and I wanted to fix her life, but there was more. That time I had this destiny. I couldn't marry when I came back from Vietnam. My dear friend Teresa, and I couldn't explain anything. I knew I had a destiny. And I'd rather shoot myself than break someone's heart. But it all came to fruition in 1,000 ways. A million ways. There are a million ways to become quiet, but there's only you. When you become the awakened one, which is now, there's only you. You understand? You are God. You become as God is. I don't like to get these words confused, but they're the truth. Forget everything out there. Be a lamp unto yourself. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Escolta.